other department you were in favor, and you voted yes for every department the way we were funding them.
My budget would have resulted in an increase, lower than the proposed budget, but still an increase.
Every department that we voted, the police, the library, the fire, arms, everything, you voted yes on every single part of the budget.
And if you take a look back, there's no ambiguity. There's no
Of course not.
ambiguity.
You voted
As long
yes
as someone
on
has
every-
basic reading
every-
comprehension, they would know the answer.
On every department. Am I correct, Mr. Tripp?
I think that
Well,
you're
Charlie,
doing the
Charlie,
same thing I
Charlie,
did.
Charlie, the chairman's talking to me, can I talk for a minute, please?
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, to answer your question, Mr. President, all right? I was more than happy to be in agreement with Mr. Feiner and Mr. Knapp. I enjoyed working with all of you through the finance process. And yes, we were almost in lockstep through just about every department. I respect and admire the work that Mr. Feiner did at ARMS, worked us through that process with minimal increases. I respect the work that the fire department did, minimal increases at the fire department, and I was in agreement with everybody. Our only stumbling block came at the Board of Education. And we just had a different view of seeing how that state grant should be used. That was the difference of opinion, which we diverged at that last point, and there was two different proposals. Now, if I could just add one more sentence, sir, okay? No tax increase is optimal or wanted, okay? That's not why I'm here, okay? I was elected to try and make city government as efficient as possible and to not have an increase in the tax burden of the residents of the city of Ansonia, okay? Having said that, with what we were confronted with, unfunded mandates from the state of Connecticut, union obligations, and other ratcheting up effects of other parts of the budget, including especially the Board of Education, we had no choice, but we were forced into some type of mill rate increase. Begrudgingly, I am unhappy about it, I do not like it, but it's just the way the system works. But I am still here to keep it at a minimum mill rate increase.
I agree.
Right.
My statement was, every other department other than Board of Education, we were in agreement.
Yes, sir.
Whatever level we were funding, fire department had no increase, 2 new officers, whatever we were doing. Every department, the library for the additional people and everything,
Yes.
we were all in agreement. And
Yes,
it would have resulted in some increase.
Unfortunately, yes.
Our disagreement was in the amount of the increase. And that's it. Hold on 1 second. Just one thing. I need to clarify something. John, you said we don't put together a real budget. Those are your exact words just now. You realize we don't put together. You used those figures when it was the 8.4%. You said we sent out a real budget with an 8.4% increase. Now you're saying the Board of Aldermen doesn't put forth a real budget.
That's
Everything
that's
that
a
we were.
mischaracterization, that's a science fiction, the way you talk about it.
You
I
used
said
the words real
proposed.
budget. I
Proposed.
think that everything we did, in all the meetings we ran, we put forth a real budget. We might have disagreed on the amount of the tax mill increase, okay? And if that hadn't happened, we would have sent out a real budget. We have to feel that our setting onto them is a real budget. It's certainly not a smokescreen. With every department that we met with all the work that went into it, with all the discussions, that was a real budget.
It's the best budget to be made, I think, at that point in time, when unfortunately, I
I
think a lot of
take
members
offense to the
know
words
this,
real
when we
budget.
are in the dark.
Okay.
It's not, it's not the final budget, and I don't think anyone denies that.
I agree.
There's no controversy there. It's the best budget that could be made when you're in the dark, and your hands are tied behind your back.
Why didn't we use those same terms? Why didn't we use those same terms that we were in the dark, that we did the best that we could when it was the 8.4%? I mean, that was plastered all over Ansonia on billboards and everything else, that the Board of Aldermen did an 8.4%. And it was the best we possibly could do at the time with the information that we had.
And at the
So
time, if you go
that
back and
was-
see what I said, I made the same
That
reason
was-
that I'm proposing
but it was
revision, is the
totally-
reasons I brought
It
it
was
there.
totally misconstrued and thrown back to us. Now, Alderman Feiner.
I just want one thing to say. I was on the finance, Phil, Eddie, John, Dean. If that article in the paper didn't come out from that Governor Malloy Did we all not vote unanimously to send that budget with $600,000? So if
If that never came out, it would've took a different course. But that's what's so difficult about being in the dark.
But
When
you
the
can't
light
say
comes in, have
you
to
were
take
on
it
board
down.
with it. We voted unanimously to send that budget.
You did.
And if,
I'm trying at length to spell it out again and
yeah,
again.
but
That new
you're
information.
denying
needs to
any,
make a difference.
you were gonna send that budget increase. You were until that
That's how
article.
the information
John,
changed.
John.
You can't have both sides of the
Hold
pie.
it, one at a time.
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
I would like to say to Mr. Adamowski that I voted no. I was one of the 4 that voted no. I was not on the finance committee, but my feelings for voting no was because when I heard that I was at that finance committee and I was very happy with going ahead with it, but when the next morning on the news I heard that they were getting that money, that's when I changed my mind and voted no. So I don't believe that you should have said it that way. I had nothing, I was not on the finance committee, I was using my own information, I was using my own mind to decide the way I felt about it. I wasn't going political or anything like that. So I don't want you to feel, because I'm a Republican, that I voted no. I voted no because I felt that the money they were getting from the state was, that we could go with the lower amount.
Absolutely not. Didn't even mention your name. You have a right to vote however you would like to.
You didn't
I
mention my
said-
name, but you said 4 votes and I happened to be one of the 4.
That's fine, but I wasn't referring to you voting negative as far as what the conversation was. You voted no on your own principles,
voted
and that's
no
fine.
on
You
my
have every right to vote however you want to. My whole point is, I think this turned into a political nightmare.
No, I wasn't.
And
I
during,
did that.
and during the meetings, you never made yourself known where you stood on.
No, I didn't.
I
Let's get back onto the focus.
I think we've let politics get into the budget
Enough, you
process.
had your hand up.
Yes, John, one of your statements were that, in regards to the charter revision, that if it goes above 1 mil, that you wanna have this. I mean, but you yourself agreed to a 1.4 increase in the mill. So, I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all, John. Honestly, you're being irresponsible and you're planning the city's budget. You're being absolutely irresponsible. If you forecast the future of our city, and you calculate to yourself that the senior citizens won't be in favor of the school budget because they're concerned about the president and they're not concerned about the future. You are absolutely playing politics. The election is over, John. You have to be responsible and be a leader of the city.
I think, Alderman Duffus, you're reading into this a lot, okay? I wanna have the people have an opinion. Say in this case, say it was a 1.4 that we put together. First of all, I want it to be known that I'm the one that would propose a 1.4, not an elected board that I can hide behind and say, not me. Second of all, I wanna have the opportunity to have public, the residents actually weigh in, okay? It allows anybody to make their case. It allows the Board of Education to make their case as to why the money's needed. It allows the city to make their case why the board is needed. And it allows citizens to get more involved in the process and to really understand what's going on. The process we have doesn't allow that. It doesn't allow us to really be accountable for what finally comes out at the end of the process. And it doesn't allow the residents any voice at all. And I think if you talk to residents, and I would just ask this, that you talk to some residents and ask them if they would like the opportunity to have a vote. You're reading a lot into my proposal. It's not being done in a way that's geared to achieve a certain result. It's geared in a way to hold us accountable and to make residents involved in the process.
John, at the end of the day,
Again,
basic
a
issue.
point of order, Mr. President.
Yes.
Misinformation is being, again, handed out. There is a process for the voice. In the charter, there are public meetings that have to be held. I held a public meeting at the high school of over 400 residents for last year's budget, not
Ask
this
them
year,
if they would like
last
to
year's
vote.
budget. Pardon?
Ask them if they would like to vote. Ask those 400 people, both the residents they gathered for
Okay,
increasing the board and against. Ask them if they would like to vote. There's a better way, Mr. Norton.
But all well
John,
and
he's
good.
addressing the board.
They, all well and good, they had the right to voice their opinion. If they didn't agree with the board's decision after that, then they had the right at election time to do whatever they felt was possible to change who made that appointment, who approved that appointment.
That's where I looked at
And
it.
that's,
Okay,
I'll leave it
my
there.
turn. And I think they have. And we're talking here about politics, and we're taking politics out of the equation. And in fact, we're putting politics into the equation. Because all anybody has to do in this economy is saying, I'm gonna vote for no tax increase, and Sharkey's getting voted out, and the other guy's getting voted in. So this is now all anybody has to do. Say, I'm gonna vote for no tax increase. John, you're putting politics right in it. You're putting more politics in it. Now, before we go on any further, I'd like to hear from Alderman Stowe, and then